Hello again, and welcome back to the Power Podcast. With me, Joe, and also my lovely esteemed guests, Sam
Hey.
and Alex.
Hello.
And this time, today, we're going to be talking about poison powers. Powers of poison, poison generation, poison manipulation. Pretty much all things to do with the power of making, generating, and creating poison. Now, obviously, we're not necessarily just talking about the usual concept of being able to bite things and inject venom, or actually generating poison that people can eat or drink, or even venoms and poisons that, when contacting skin, damage people. We're going to talk about all of them, just like last time. Right off the bat, I'll just say, obviously we see it in a lot of different forms, but we're going to be tackling the concept of there's any and all powers to do with poison generation. Now, as I said before, there's like two, if not three, different types of poison that usually are considered like a substantial thing. Poisons usually are seen in most like shows or comics or animated things as some kind of liquid, usually. And usually a poison generator will normally be able to generate this kind of liquid or make it, or so on and so forth. Poison is usually the stuff that you ingest. Venom is stuff that is usually introduced into the body's bloodstream. Now, either can sometimes have what's known as a contact poison, where upon touching it, it has specific nasty effects, similar to neurotoxins like jellyfish and so on and so forth. If you touch it, it'll actually poison you because of this, just either touching your skin and reacting to it that way and poisoning the actual skin, or there's tiny little needles that are actually getting under the skin and then poisoning the bloodstream underneath, really depending on the situation. Usually poison generators have a ton of different abilities, but we also then see poisonous gas and sometimes even creating literal solids that are poisonous. Now, obviously, we'll get into the main nitty-gritties, but obviously there is the main nitpick, which is technically anything can be considered poisonous in the right or wrong circumstances, which I actually heard this quite a lot of the time when I actually first made this power. Someone said, well, technically, like bleach is poisonous, or like certain drugs can be poisonous to certain species, or obviously you can overdose, and certain drugs are actually just genuinely poison, but they have specific effects. It really goes without saying. It really depends, because obviously certain law will allow it to only be like considerably their own poison type that they generate and control. Others can control and generate other poison types. But obviously we'll get into the sort of nitty gritty bits in a bit. But mostly we're actually just going to be talking about the concept of actually generating poison. So I just want to sort of ask like you guys like what your opinions are on like poison based powers.
Love them. Underrated, I think. I do mean underrated in that there is a lot that does poison generation in like popular superhero culture, but they're often seen as like secondary powers. Like, for example, my favorite anti-hero, Poison Ivy. Like, she's mainly known for like her plant-based, superpowers, nature kinesis and all that. But she's also known as like part of her plant manipulation. She's known for like exuding toxins, so through her kiss in particular, which makes it extra terrible because you are essentially ingesting, her poison, orally, and that's how she can do it. She can also make herself immune to poisons and other people immune to her poisons, and generally like exude certain poisons, but it's always part of like her plant-based stuff, which is I think it's kind of like underrated because when you think of poison ivy, you think of like nature powers first, and then poison second. Even though it's like one of her most deadly and versatile abilities, and I would love to see more of it. Like I love it. I mean, I probably see it. You've probably seen it. How much I'm enjoying it by playing Toxie at the moment, who is a poison generator in the Animite Tales.
No,
Just I freaking
absolutely.
love it. I freaking love it, man.
I was also going to say, also, like, something that everyone seems to forget is that, like, Poison Ivy is actually a doctor. And and like tying in with this actually cleanly is, if you have enough expertise on the type of poison that you have, like how you've done with Toxie, you can make special abilities and perks based around it. For instance, you can make chemical compounds, drugs, any kind of thing that can allow you to sort of get an extra edge. Like, oh, drink this energy drink. It's infused with my special poison, but it's just a neurotoxin, so it just numbs you. So it's kind of like almost like a drinkable anesthesia. Or, you can drink this and it's got the inebriant ability, so therefore it can do this. Yes, this is a power indeed in Animite Tales, and obviously, Alex, you play as a poison generator in the villains campaign that we do right now for the dev plays. So if anyone's wondering exactly how that functions, check that out, because we actually do that in our campaigns over on those videos. You did say about, obviously, with Poison Ivy, contact poison and also poison immunity, which in a multitude of different ways can be very useful. As we've said before on our previous episodes, an immunity is still one of the best abilities that you can have. Because just having the ability of like resisting or being completely immunized to any particular type of, at least either an effect or a damage type, can be very, very good. What about you, Sam? Is there, what are your thoughts on poison-based powers and poison generation?
They're pretty cool. Because there is a number of ways you could do it that could be even more powerful than the main ability. One of the ones I want to bring up was in old school D&D, and something called Greater Medusas. They have, like Medusa, if you look at her, she more or less turns you to stone. Like, she also has her hair made of snakes that can bite you. But her most powerful ability actually is that if she bleeds, that's contact poison. So if you touch that, you have to roll like a 15, or you die.
Jeez.
The best part is that she's immune to it, so she can actually coat weapons with her blood, and then like shoot you with an arrow, example. And then you have to roll 15 plus or die.
Damn,
I was going to say that is OP actually. Plus, that's like the worst as well, because it's sort of like you stab her, well done, you've just been splattered with the deadliest of all poisons.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's no winning it. You'll have to like either just range her, or like just find another way. Just drop a rock on her or something, because it's like you're not gonna get out of a knife fight. You brought a knife to a poison fight. You're not going to win.
Point to get flame brand, and then it just cuts off her arm. Blood just boils and cauterizes the wound.
This is also talking about one very specific advantage as well. Going back to how Alex, you said about like Poison Ivy, who is a doctor, and she understands not only like nature, but she also understands chemicals and poisons. Immediately going to the other side of the spectrum, where instead of understanding how their powers work in the terms of keeping them safe or how they can grow them or make them better, you then have this person who's like, naturally my body has all of these really deadly effects. I could just weaponize them, even though they're not normally supposed to be weaponized. Like, poisonous blood is supposed to stay in the body, but if I already get cut, I might as well just sprinkle a little bit on. Sprinkle's not probably the best way. Coat a little bit on the tip of this blade and then just start swinging. I think that's a really, really cool strat. I think that's really cool. I think that's also one of the main things about like what's so dangerous about poison users is eventually they'll start coming up with more cunning ways to use their abilities.
I mean, it's a very cunning power, to be fair. I mean, poison in general is a weapon that, as the Darkest Dungeon would say, it's a weapon that cuts on its own. It's something. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, as they say in the first Assassin's Creed, he used poison, the coward's weapon, and to some degree, that is right. If you go head to head against someone, and someone's like, I don't know, the world's greatest swordsman, and they're really good, and they get slightly nicked by your, sword or dagger or whatever, they get slightly cut. And then they suddenly drop to the ground and they start dying either very quickly or they start losing the ability to fight.
I mean, it is. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, is that thing of there's a little bit of cheating in that.
I mean, is it though, or is it like the greatest equalizer? Because, like there's a reason why Agatha Christie uses it in like all of her mystery novels. Well, not all of her mystery novels, but most of her mystery novels. Then poison
Spoilers.
is the weapon because spoilers, everyone, for Agatha Christie. Poison is involved, you know. But like, sorry, damn you. Yeah, basically it is the great equalizer because anybody can be the murderer. I mean, like it takes a lot of strength and effort and to go up to someone and like stab them or beat them to death or something, and you might laugh, but anybody can poison someone else if they have the poison, if they have the opportunity to slip it in someone's drink, or like or just like have a blow dart, or just get the poison on them in some way. That's it. Like you could take down like someone twice your size with the right poisons. And yeah, that is and there's no fighting against it. Yeah, you could say it's the coward, but you could also say it's like the thinking person's weapon because there's no way that anybody is someone who knows they're not going to win the fight.
I want to point
by
out,
brute
I
strength alone.
personally don't necessarily think that it is the coward's weapon. I do, however, think that there are a lot of ways that you could use any power cowardly. Like the idea of you have this super strength and you only ever fight against people who never have any powers to fight back. I think there's always a cowardly way of using a power. Like the idea of tricking someone into, oh yeah, let's be friends, have a drink on me, and then immediately like spike their drink and then they die. And it's like, aha, see, I bested the great powerful Goliath. And you're just like, well, no, you just tricked him into taking his own life without him knowing that he was doing so.
I would say it gives you a good opportunity to monologue as well. It is kind of like a more villainous power in that way.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it's mostly villains who have this, because poison, as well as like being like an equalizer, like it can take down pretty much anybody regardless of strength. If they're like incapacitated, you can just monologue and like explain exactly why you're killing them. Whereas if you're just like, for example, a giant hell demon that is bent on revenge, and is just turning someone into mush, there's not really much time to actually let someone know why you're turning them into mush.
However, on the opposite side of that, as cool of a like sort of a thing of like, oh yes, and now you're going to die. It's quite funny, actually. Now that I think about it, the greatest rival of all was your hubris. Like having this big, long-winded speech. But then, just as equally, if the opponent is either immune, resistant, or even just has the know-abouts of how to get around that power, you can almost feel like the person who can fight against a poison actually has a better capability of being on their feet and would almost create an aura of almost seemingly greater cunning / intellect. Because like countering poison or countering the supposed coward's weapon or the hidden weapon or the concealed damage, you seemingly seem to have that power. Like for instance, if someone suddenly goes like, and now I've poisoned this blade and I cut you, it's like, well, that's the thing. I knew that you were going to cut me with this blade, and I knew that you had something to do with poisons. So right before, I actually stored quite a bit of anti-venom, and then the dude just like chugs a little bottle, and now he's okay.
Just, haha! I had my tetanus shot.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
I had my bad anti-poison.
Yes, or something like that, or even something as silly as like, I'm going to create this large poisonous gas, and you'll all die. Cool. Good thing that I can control air and just waft it away, or good thing that I have this big industrial-sized fan, or good thing
I have this gas mask.
Yes, exactly. This gas mask, or lighter.
Or in the case of one of our characters, good thing I don't have lungs in which to breathe in the gas.
Yes,
I'm like,
absolutely.
Well, you got me there.
I'll poison the skeleton.
But it can be, even without that, it can actually be good for stories, because there are a lot of ways you can use poisons. Like, I think was it Crank? I want to say Crank. Oh no, it was.
God!
I think it was Crank and like Escape from L.A. or New York.
Oh yeah, I know that one. It's when he's got this deadly poison. He's trying really, because if he goes to sleep, his body's going to go into shock and he's going to die. So he has to keep himself awake. So he goes to incredible lengths to like make sure that he's still awake, and
Or,
it's both intense but really funny.
but like, not even that. Like, just say it's like one of those poisons that, oh, if you don't do this in 24 hours, you will die. No, I was like, okay, well, you have the
Poison is
the serum
one
that
of
will stop this.
Yeah,
And I was like,
poison is
well,
one of the only
crap.
abilities that there is a potential way out of it. Like, stopping someone's heart usually is like a one-hit KO. Decapitation.
I mean, Craig too. Stop that.
Pretty much a guaranteed kill. Being disintegrated. Pretty much, there's no coming back from that. Stuff like that. Whereas poison, unless if like the villain isn't going to be a complete numpty, usually you could just go like, oh, I'll do this, but there is still a possibility of either there is another venom or poison out there that can counteract the other effects of them, such as anti-venoms and anti-poisons and stuff like that. But you've also then got the idea of, like as I said, antidotes, like either certain drugs, like countermanding the effects. I think that's really cool. Also, like certain things that can mitigate them. For instance, like maybe keeping like a specific body part under wraps by either like tying off the circulation or even removing the limb or the body part that has actually been affected by the poison. But yeah, so we're all talking about the same rough thing. Is like there's sometimes a way around poison, whereas like other things, it's not so easy.
Also, like, I mean, at least with the Animite tells them with most games, like, unless you kill someone with enough poison, poison like stops eventually. Like, you can recover from it. Like, there's no like lasting ailments from it. Not yet, anyway.
Unless,
wait,
of course, if
wait
you
till
do
I
it
get a
to
hold of it.
cause one, like some kind of like horrible necrotizing sort of thing where it just starts eating away at the flesh, or it just swells it up, or damages
I was
the
thinking
nerves.
of that actually. I was thinking of like either doing through a chemistry perk or through an SPMA, some kind of wasting poison that like just does chip damage over time. And like, I mean, I already had that as well. Like with a chemistry pack, I already have where I create a drug with my various poisons with neurotoxins, where I can make it addictive. Like I give the effects of like neurotoxins and like and my inebriants, like just full on, getting someone incredibly drunk and high. But the after effect of that is that they get the ailment addicted, and basically they are just like really seeking out this drug again, and also have like disadvantage rolls to charisma all the time as well, which is like I'm quite proud of that one actually. It's a shame I haven't been able to like make any of that yet, but like that's sort of that's sort of like an effect of poison that you don't see too much because well, drugs are poison, man. So and it's just that's a way. It's like it's not necessarily like doing immense amount of damage. It's like it's just giving someone like an after effect, like it's still in their body and their body kind of craves it after a while, even though it's not doing them any good.
That is one of the weird things about tabletop games is that poisons just tend to end in like 3 or 4 rounds.
No, you're absolutely right. I was actually going to say about that. Like it.
So was I.
Well, sorry, I was just going to say poison. You're absolutely right. A lot of the times, poison is just a damage type that either continues to last, but it doesn't usually have any extra effects. But a lot of the time, you'll actually have it like in a lot of shows. Poisons will have some kind of special effect, almost like a disease. Mm-hmm. Like it will be like, oh, this poison. As I said, for instance, like in real life, if you get poisoned by certain creatures, they can actually like it can be completely like flesh melting or something. Or this poison will paralyze the person either permanently or so long as the poison is within their body or something.
Oh my god, there's that one that also I think you mentioned this as well as another possibility for Toxie. It's this sort of like as well as like the actual poison going through your veins and like burning and causing you to. It also has like a coagulant inside your body, so it keeps your blood thin and stuff and keeps you bleeding, so it's like it can't heal up and it can't sort of seal off
Yes.
the wound. And
Yes, it was.
that's deadly.
I,
That's
th-
truly scary.
I think it
That's
was.
yeah.
I think it was
Oh, what was it?
anticoagulant because vampire bats have a specific anticoagulant like substance in their saliva. So when they lick their own teeth or when they lick the wounds of whoever they bite or scratch, with their fangs or with their claws, they then lick the wounds and they cannot seal up, and therefore they just keep bleeding. And I thought that would be kind of interesting to make a poison where if someone is suddenly cut, the bleed effect lasts longer. Because like poisons can have so many different effects. Like that's another thing. Like although it is usually as you and Sam said, like in a lot of stuff like D&D or even like actual like video games and stuff, it's usually just a damage type that damages you over time.
But
No, go on.
in actual D&D, it doesn't actually do damage. Or at least originally, it didn't actually do any damage. It actually did something worse. It actually lowered your stats. The example was, if I remember correctly, one of the ones it did was it would do constitution damage. So you'd roll.
Oh no. We're disconnected. No, I don't believe I have. There's just now silence.
Oh no! Oh,
God damn! As soon as I get to a point, then whenever you shut up.
Did you also hear nothing from Sam's end as well, Alex?
oh, is that better? Is it?
Hear me now?
No, yeah, I can hear you guys, but I think it's my end.
Dang.
At what point did you cut out?
Okay, there we go. Literally, as you said, it does constitution damage, and then that was it. You didn't say anything else.
Okay. Well, for a number of rounds, I think you have to roll Constitution to try and abate the poison, more or less. You take Constitution damage continually for a number of rounds, and if you get to 0, you die.
Oof.
Damn.
And it lasts for I think it lasts for a couple of hours.
Jeez.
I think it lasts until you go to sleep.
Oh
More
my
or
god!
less.
Old school D&D is brutal with
No,
poison.
this is 3rd edition D&D. This is
I would say
Pathfinder.
I would say that's old school. I mean,
at this point,
fight about it in the
yeah.
comments. I'd say that's old school myself.
Thing is, though,
Yeah.
that would make it slightly different than just damage, because poison is scary. Then poison isn't just, oh, I hit you with poison, right? It does D6 damage. No, it's, oh, you take D2, you lose Constitution, you lose health, means you could die at any minute. Bam! Now you're scared. Now you're running away from the cloud of death.
I mean, we kind of do have that.
Goes
Though.
back to the exact point that is made about poison, as well as poison generation or poison-based powers, is that it's not just having to be something that has damage; it's also an ailment, and you can be ailed with this particular illness or this particular issue that will eventually just kill you. Like it's like, oh, it doesn't do damage; it just causes something in your body to shut down, or it starts melting away at a certain part of you. So it's less that it fatigues your body, more that it actually just destroys it outright. And again, like as you said, it could be a liquid, it could be a solid, it could even be a gas. Which comes back to the next point, is that like poison in different states of matter. Now, I was actually going to ask, like, what do you think is like the worst state of poison? But I think it's probably more interesting to actually talk about each one, which is obviously liquids. As you said, Sam, liquids can always be put on things, like if it's blood or if it's or if it's just genuine, like something similar to sweat or spit, or actually just a liquid poison. It can just be coated on a weapon. So like we sort of roughly covered that, but like I don't know if you guys had anything else to say about like liquid-based poisons, like anything else that you wanted to add to that.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, honestly, what I'm hoping to do with my character Toxie as well, because like the reason why I created this SPMA of poison shards, where basically I create like shards of my poison like solidified, is that I didn't really, this is the problem. Like with some of my abilities, like doing it as a gas, especially the stat modifying gas and stuff, it would only like affect like what he was actually touching at the time. So I'd either have to like get the liquid poison on their particular bare flesh in the right place to actually demodify them, or I had to like make them breathe in the gas, and like they would have like they would have like some stat effects to their breathing, like they'd roll disadvantage to their breathing, which is a problem. But if I have it on a solid, like say for instance I have my poison damage and then I just coat it with another poison, I could just throw it like a poison dart and so on, and it's like bam, you've got a numbing sting in your arm. You can't use that arm very well. Bam, another one in the leg, another one in the neck. Oh dear, you're on the floor. So it's just sort of like the application is why it's just that extra versatility uh to it. Whereas like I think that with like gases are good because they can be pretty much undetectable. It's like once you're in the cloud, there's really no escaping, but it's not as precise as I would like. Because it's
No.
just all around you. Whereas like with liquids and solids, with my abilities, you can just touch a particular area, you can just like fire it at a particular area, and you have more precision in that way. So that's my preferred method.
Your preferred method is more solid and liquid because
Yeah,
gas is a lot of the time it's just AoE or unpredictable in the terms of
yeah.
where it's going to be.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like the AoE stuff. I'll
Oh
still
yeah,
do
yeah.
it, to give myself an advantage. But in terms of like, I do like precise attacks and actually knowing what it's going to do, or at least knowing what it's attempting to
Knowing
do.
that there's a more minimal chance of hitting anyone else that you're actually not trying to hit.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've had that trouble before where, there's just been collateral damage to my poisons. And
No,
it's like,
absolutely.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, in a sense that's good because you basically pretty much have changed the terrain. So if you're like up against multiple targets, it's actually quite good because everybody's at a disadvantage of an AoE. But if your comrades are around you and they're not immune to poison, you've just taken out half your team. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword, I suppose.
No, absolutely.
I
Sam,
mean,
what about you?
unless it brought up the idea that remember it was in a film, it was in a game, but they brought up the idea of a poison that's specific to someone, like specific to someone's DNA, more or less. But you could spread it out in a crowd, but only kill one person.
That
So you
is
could
very specific.
no, it was more like an assassination technique. So it was. It's like the perfect assassination technique, whereas you could just send it out into the world, choose the DNA spectrum, would kill, and it would just kill that person.
It reminds me a lot of
As in Hitman.
Manticore from Advanced Warfare. As Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, in the campaign, they eventually
Yeah.
designed this thing called the Manticore, and it's a bomb that literally it's a gas that targets people's DNA, and then it just pulls at it, and it just tears apart people's DNA, so they just start melting, or they start like rotting like instantly.
Ugh.
And it's only based. It's like got a load of these different codes, and only if you took your like in other words your blood or your DNA and put it into the server. In other words, if you worked for this PMC, it works. You betray them later on, and your DNA is still hidden inside of that bomb as part of one of the DNA codes. So when it goes off, you're safe. Everyone else around you just starts melting.
That's
And
horrible.
and so like yeah, I definitely think like yeah yes. Also, if you can get it specific, but again that was gas. So yes, I do think you're right on the money with that. Like if you can have some kind of like controllability, gas is sometimes possibly the best way because it's so much more difficult to cease
Or
people from doing.
even I think would be one of those best ones is where, say it's one of those like, you know what I say, like one of those ones where I have to shake a lot of hands.
Oh
So,
yeah,
oh
it's
yeah,
yeah.
so all I have to do is give, like, say you're one of the group, like say you're in a line, you give the person like a slime, not a slime, but like sweat with poison in it.
Oh
you
my
shake their
god!
hand, then you
Oh.
wait, and then it waits forward. Wait. That person up there dies. You're like, no one's gonna figure out it was me. It could have been anyone.
I
It
mean,
was
there would
probably
be
that
so
guy who
much.
shook her hand.
You could be like, I mean, you'd essentially be called anthrax. Like, that's what people do with anthrax. Like, they just infect themselves with anthrax. Like, imagine a supervillain that's immune to their own, and they just exude anthrax, and they're just sort of like going from place to place, like touching everyone, giving everyone hugs and stuff, and just going about their daily business and just leaving this trail of slow acting poison that's like lethal to
I
everyone
mean,
around. You'd be the worst, and no one will
Ox,
know.
I've got good news for you. There is that. That's what an anti-paladin is in old school D&D. They
What?
exude of disease. I think is the term they use. They exude disease. So if they're in an area, people will begin just to die because they're diseased. One of the ones someone told me was an adventure idea was the anti-paladin just spits to a like a well.
Yeah. Oh, he poisoned
Everyone he
the
drinks.
well.
Because it's a bit like paladins. Paladins can't get poisoned or diseased, and no one around them can get poisoned or diseased because they're like immune to that. But anti-paladins are the same, but because they're carriers of all disease.
Oh my
So,
god.
so imagine if Toxie just exuded their poison constantly, and it was slow and horrible, and it would like welt people. That's more or less what it was. It was the Black Death times 5.
I think that might be. Well, that's the thing. We have a thing called master skills when we get to like level 10 on SPMA. I have
Please don't
to,
tell me you're doing that.
No. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna say. I'm filing that away for later. I just say. Stay
Oxy the
tuned if
World
I
Ender.
decide it.
I'd
I've been close.
I'd say in all honesty, probably the scariest is probably poison gas, because like, although yes, like poison gas, like if people know about it, they won't breathe it in, or at least they'll try and get gas masks, or they'll try and hold their breath, or they'll try and put something over their mouth to to keep them alive. But again, like, if someone's underprepared or doesn't know about it, then that's a bad thing. And technically, yes, you could say that about anything. Like, the opposite with like physical poison, whether it was liquid and it's subtle where you just put it in someone's drink, or if it's liquid and you're just creating a tidal wave, or the sweat thing. Like, for instance, you could do the sweat thing, and the person who shakes your hand is like really self-conscious and germ-conscious, so he just wears gloves, or refuses to shake your hand, because
I'm not talking about like really sweaty. Like, even constantly, your hand does sweat.
No.
I mean,
like,
even so, but it would
Sam,
feel. It would
what I
still
really
feel
mean
weird.
is, go outside now and ask to shake someone's hand randomly.
I'm talking about like if it's like one of those military ceremony things. Those things, because there's
you're putting
there's more
perfect area. I'm talking about like an actual, like, like, say for instance you were a hitman and you're like, oh, you have to go find this guy. He's just at a regular day at the bank. Hey, sorry sir, can I shake your hand? What? No, I don't know. You go away.
Oh, it's like
I think it must be that guy. He should go hand.
I mean,
yeah, he
this
must
is
have
why.
given me
This is
something.
This
There are
is
ways
why
to do
this is why femme fatales usually elicit poisons as well. Because no one wants to shake your hand, but go to that same businessman and be very attractive and just ask him for a good time and stuff. They'll be like, yeah, all right, because no one's that's less likely to refuse it, and then it's like, ah, yes, well, I had this coming. As you get,
there's ways around that where you just say you know the target's name. You do the whole do you ever we used to go to school together, or like say he's a businessman, like say my colleague's been talking about you, great, I have to say you were doing like a hell of a job in those accounts.
I don't actually work in any place. Are we friends at school? I was homeschooled.
It's also a know the target vaguely.
I know, although
But
for
my
real
point
though,
is, yes, there is a perfect chance of you having the ability to perfectly align everything up so that you could do it in the way that you need to do it, get around it. But I'm also saying, for every perfect capability to build up, there's also the perfect way for it to be like completely ruined. For instance, as I said before, you try and poison someone's drink, bring them this drink that is poison, and they go, "Oh no, thanks, I don't drink alcohol." You then get them like a glass of water, and they've already got like a pitcher in one hand and their own glass in the other, just pouring out. I was like, "No, I've already got my own. Don't worry about it." And I never let this out of my sight. Don't want any.
And that's when I create just a poison dart and just stab them in the neck, because like fuck this,
At that point,
fuck
that is
Skindelf.
obviously conspicuous. But that's my point. Like, every single method has its perfect opportunity. Like, okay, so I'm going to scope them out, and little does he know, I'm going to put a little bit of poison on one of his meals because I'm going to pretend like as if I'm the chef or one of the waitstaff and hand it into him. And then I just go, oh, well, there's like 17 different people who could have touched your food, so any of them could have been the person who poisoned you. And by that point, I'm already out of there. I've cheesed it. Yeah, gotten away. But at the same time, there's also that possibility of this guy just doesn't eat any of the food that you give him because that he gets a taste tester before every single meal, or he doesn't drink from any of the glasses that you go for because either your luck is not that good, or because that they only have one container that they ever drink from, and it is impossible to poison it without being very obviously seen. And the same thing with the gas. You do the gas, everyone knows about the gas. They could put gas masks on. They could have things around them. Or obviously, they could just hold their breath long enough for it to be done. Now, obviously...
necessarily. The gas could be odorless, tasteless, and sightless.
Well, I was also
going to say... They have the power just to do it. If they're in front of them.
Well, what I'm saying, Sam, is that like there are the bad ones and the good ones, and then there's the intermediate ones where it's like, yeah, no one's really going to know that it was me. There is a chance, but or even something like someone knows that you are a user of poison, but they think that, for instance, the gas is visible, and then you go up to them and it's like, why am I suddenly dying? Oh wait, your gas, yeah, dude, it's invisible. It's like poisonous air. Like there's an intermediate one where one detail could immediately be the bad thing, and that's what I'm sort of trying to say, because one of the scariest parts about any poison manipulator or poison generator or any poison user is the factor of like one delivery system that is perfect for that specific chance. Now, obviously, you guys said the liquid. I was actually going to say, in the real world, obviously, you actually have creatures that have venomous stings and venomous bites, and it's the perfect situation for them. But they're also in the least perfect situation for them, because if we, as people, know if they are or aren't poisonous and know how to deal with said poisonous creatures, and we're equipped with the right stuff and in the right scenario, we can combat that. But obviously there's a medium point where like, oh damn, I know that's a rattlesnake, either after you've been bit or just before you get bit. And it's that thing of, I can't do anything, I'm too close to it to get out of the way, or it's too late, I might as well lop this leg off and just continue on my life with one less leg. So again, there's that medium point where it's a 50-50 chance of whether or not you'll actually get this done or you'll get out of that situation. Because that's the scary thing about almost any power, but poison is probably one of the worst ones because there's so many different ways that it can take forms. Now, obviously, with certain power users, some power users can do it with anything. They can either make solid poison objects, they can make liquid poison, they can make gaseous poison, and some can only make one of the three, two of the three, or all three. Now, in the villain campaign with poison manipulation, we never actually state that you can make solids, but with an ability that you came up with and made for yourself for Toxie, because Toxie has what is known as the level 10 ability, the evolution known as poison manipulation, where they can manipulate any of the poisons, like as if they're a telekinetic, but only with poisonous substances, usually ones that they generate or ones that are actually confirmed to actually be poison or venom. You can also change any of your own poisons on the fly once they have been released from yourself, and you can blast them out of your body kind of almost like a projectile sweat or gas. And you came up with the ability called Deleterious Shards?
Well, actually, originally it was called Poison Needle. It came from like many different names. Like, well, that's the thing because you came up with deleterious stingers,
That's it.
and like, and I think I already said like, they're poison needles, and I was like, well, or solidify, and that was like my least favorite name for it. And then like, actually, I gotta thank Coin for this because like in creating my avatar, that you kind of see of Toxie. Like at first, he didn't understand me when I said poison needles. Like he actually drew syringes, which were cool, to be fair. But that wasn't what I'm looking for. And I'm like, and like after I told him, no, 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 I mean like like physical sort of needles. He sort of went, oh, thank God, this is really difficult to draw hundreds of these. And it's like,
I'm just showing. I'm
uh,
just showing them now on screen,
yeah.
like the actual art of Toxie holding up the green poison shards.
Look at them. Look at them. And then basically after like I made that clarification, he came up with these things and that they are so beautiful and so terrifying. I'm like, yeah, they are poison shards or deleterium shards. Uh and yeah, that's what they are now. And it's like it's so great as well, because if anyone picks them up, they're gonna get sick as well. So only I can pick them up really. And yeah, yeah, they were used to great effect in the last dev plays that we did. And yeah, I'm so happy with them, And also the best part is that whilst they're like, physical objects, I can also coat them with other poisons if I want to. So
Mm.
I can potentially do a lot of really nasty things and look cool doing it because they just look so cool. Actually, here's a question for all of you. I think we had this conversation before, Joe, but not with Sam. What do you think is like the most poisonous color? Like you'd like initially imagined my poisons, like my shard ability, to be sort of purpley, but I always thought of them as being like green because that's been like my idea of poisons, like poisons
Yeah.
being green. Yeah, and it's like that's the idea behind the costume connection as well. It's like the most dangerous sort, the colors that are most associated with poisons, like green, purple, and red. And again, I love it. Thank you so much, Zan, for doing this wonderful creation for me for the game. Uh, and yeah, I just wanted to know, like, what do you associate with poisons? Like, because I didn't really think purple until anime, really. Like, mostly
I
it's been green.
never thought of purple with poison.
I've
I
always
always
thought
thought green.
green or purple. I think anime has ruined me because I do think majoritively purple. Uh,
I always
and now, yeah, I definitely agree though. Green
green,
is like the more Western.
green, and
Yeah.
also like white, but like a sickly yellowy white.
Oh, yeah, like a sort of tincture, I mean, like
Yeah,
literal what venom looks like when it comes out of
yeah.
like a snake.
Tho-
Uh,
those
I
two
guess
colors I associate. Whenever I look at them, I think, well, that's bad. Kryptonite.
like a bleachy
So it is.
yellow, like a bleached yellow,
Mm.
but also clear liquid sort of style is like because obviously that's the usual rough color of venom, like actual like like a creature's venom. Although I will say this, poisonous potions and elixirs usually black, like a jet black liquid, almost like as if you had like actually taken it from the abyss. Uh, I usually see that as like a thing. I mean, we see it in a few different things with obviously the red, the black liquid with the white skull and crossbones. I'd have to say though the most common one that I know of is usually a purpley, but I have seen a sort of crimson purplish red.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like the color of, poisonous frogs, really. That's where that comes from. I think it's kind of
Yes.
the purples and the reds. It sort of just screams danger and do not eat me.
Mm.
It's just, I don't know. I
That's
would
actually a
love to
good
find
question.
out the origin of the colors and differences and stuff, like in terms of like, colors. Because like you said, it wasn't until anime that I really thought about it. It's like, yeah, in anime, like they do love their purple to signify poisons. And in this country, well, in the West, it's very different. I wonder how that came about.
Might be because of kryptonite. Because whenever you see that, it's like it's bright green, it's poisonous.
I don't know, because cauldrons would also usually have green elixirs in them even before then.
This is in the 1940s. Was there color back TV back in the day?
I mean, actually,
Oh,
sure.
but even
Not sure.
before that, though, even before that, in Halloween, attire, though, it used to be like, green things and cottage later with the witch's brew. I think that's like, I mean, I can't be sure. Maybe like I'm just sort of like
I think
ruined
it's
by
because green
Technicolor.
is usually associated with usually like to put it a better word, snot. But it's
Yeah.
also like a lot of the time it's considered as sort of like made out of nature, like like green things, herbs, vegetation. Because usually they like mix all this sort of stuff up. And the other one I guess is also like pus, which is also, I hate that word so much. But yes, it is.
Oh
That
God, yeah,
possibility.
like that the kind of darkened yellow. That's kind of like, that's gross as well. You think like, like typical things. When you're thinking of like toxic waste and
Oh,
stuff, it's like, green.
I
Ugh.
think I looked it up. It might be because of nature. Because
Oh, so
nature
we're
is
right. So we're right then, Joe.
Yeah.
Ah,
why.
mark that in
I
the
mean,
tally.
I definitely knew that. Yeah. I was just testing you guys. I'd have to say though, like the ability to control the strength of one's poison, the ability to control the effects, because obviously it could be like, oh, it's an agonizing poison, it's a numbing poison, it's just a poison that does damage and fatigues someone over time. It's a poison that just like stops someone's heart, causes them to continuously bleed, makes them feel or actually be sick. Maybe even it does something that affects one of the five senses, makes them numb, makes them blind, makes them temporarily deaf, temporarily unable to speak. Any of these different kinds of like abilities, taste, the sensation of the sensation of taste, the sensation of smell. Like there's all sorts of different ways that you could actually have poison being scary. I guess like solids, like again, like as you did with the poison shards. I like the idea of condensing like this thing that was originally a liquid and almost like drying it out, turning it into an actual sharp piece of poison. If it then scratches someone, they take poison. If it stabs into them, it's like this will keep poisoning them over time. And it's just so scary.
Oh, even
to have
better
those kind
as
of powers.
well, what you pointed out to me with when we were figuring out, the mechanics of doing this. The best thing is like if that doesn't do the damage, if it's like stuck in them and they're like, immune to that poison now. With my poison manipulation skill, just snap my fingers, those shards are now turned into a different poison. They're now a gas. It's now going into your lungs.
Yes, yeah.
Beauty. Beautiful.
One particular poison user I have seen before had the specific ability to shoot out poisonous balls, like bubbles. If they hit you, they would do poison damage, but inside of the bubbles was actually gas. So the second they burst, they then do a small AoE of poisonous gas, and if you breathed it in, it would do damage. If your character's eyes were open, they'd actually have, for a certain amount of time, their eyes would be watering, and therefore their vision would be impaired. And there was just all of these really horrible effects, and it's like, this is very, very terrifying. This is very scary. I will actually say this, since, to be fair, I don't think it's really necessary in us doing a whole ability on this. But if so, then we'll actually add it part of another power, which is, a lot of the time, poison is associated with being corrosive. Like not all the time, but a lot of times there is a moment where a drop of poison lands on the ground and then it starts making the stone sizzle, or it melts through something, or it starts slowly melting something. And the reason I said that maybe we'll do it in another episode is we might touch on decay and corrosive powers. But for the time being, I'll just say it now. Corrosive abilities are usually added in somewhere among the lines of the usage of poison. And I think it's because that like there are quite a lot of different actual things that do have corrosive substances in them that are still poisonous. I like this. Most poison what was it? All corrosive substances are poisonous, but not all poisonous substances are corrosive. Which is kind of interesting.
I mean, it's like a different sort of thing in a way, because it's like with poison, it's like, there is sort of like an element of like nature about it. Like there's something natural. Like you can have naturally occurring poisons. Corrosives, however, they're almost always man-made, and that's what makes them more terrifying and deadly, because it's like,
I mean,
yeah,
stomach acids.
I mean, but still, like stomach acids ain't gonna melt through the floor. Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't. Has there been a MythBusters on that? Like just having so many. I mean, I don't want to say it because I may not. That might be true. Maybe it does
To
go through,
be
but it's
fair,
not like.
Alex, I did just say all corrosives are poisonous. That might not be true. There might be drinks that are slightly acidic that aren't actually poisonous. But when I mean like proper corrosive, I mean like will actually
Coca-Cola.
melt the flesh. Like yes, Coca-Cola, actual orange juice has levels of acidic properties. Like, it is acidic, but it's not poisonous.
Well, I mean,
Depends on how much you drink.
Question. Okay, but question, Joe. This is me being jammy for the next game. By that notion, if we're going to say that Coca-Cola and fizzy drinks have some form of corrosive acid in it, could I technically manipulate it with my powers?
I'd say yes, because that has corrosive capabilities and acidic
Yes!
capabilities. But you wouldn't.
I am the cola bender.
You wouldn't be able to do any extra damage with it, as I said before.
Oh no! I definitely wouldn't be able to do damage with it, but I'd be able to like figure. I could just slap someone's drink right in their face.
Yes,
if it has corrosive.
It's like, wait, hang on a sec. How are you able to manipulate orange juice, or how are you able to manipulate Coca-Cola? They're not poisonous. Well, actually, they have a tendency. It's a little trickier for me to do it, but they actually do have a tendency of being quite corrosive. Oh, all right, smartass, all right.
Can you manipulate alcohol then, considering it's technically?
I mean, yeah, I
It would
can generate an alcohol
Like,
type substance, so
It would really depend,
Yeah.
because
I mean, it's poisonous. Alcohol is a poison.
again, it really depends.
mind you, I mean, it's like sort of I can manipulate my own inebriants at least. I don't know if I can manipulate other people's inebriants. This is the test, Whereas, like, I can, from what we know from the games, I can manipulate battery acid.
Yes.
So you can do that, but I can only do it in limited capacity. Like I can make people throw up their stomach acids, but I can't lift up a person because they've got stomach acids. All right, that's a limit of my powers. It's like I can't do it. I can't do it too much. So I guess there's like a taking the piss sort of cap that we put in Animite Tales. It's like, is it taking the piss if I do? If I do
it's
this,
really more just down to the narrator, because obviously I could say in my games, yes, I'm fine with you manipulating alcohol and Coca-Cola and acidic fruit juice drinks, because they count as either acids or poisons depending on the situations. But someone also might just go no, because they're not actually your poisons, or they're not actually genuinely poison. And the way that I define poison is it actually has a poisoning effect of damage. Rather than just an effect that might happen over time, sort of thing. Because obviously, like enough alcohol can actually poison or kill someone in one whole go, but it really depends on how much they've intaken, or the percentage of it, and also the strength of their own ability to break down said poisons. So it would really depend to certain degrees. Like for instance, if you had like pure ethanol. Like, I would be like, without a doubt, in my campaign, I would be like, yeah, without a doubt, like, it is poisonous. Technically, it could destroy some of your other poisons, but it is a form of poisonous substance to someone else. So yeah, again, that's the whole point about Animite Tales. You have the choice, or at least your narrators have the choice to say yes or no. And, in that particular moment, that's when they'll say, yes, this ability is allowed, or no, I think that that is taking a bit too far, is going a bit out there, or is a little broken. And just like with everything, once your DM, GM, or narrator, game master, dungeon master, or narrator has said yes or no, I think it's just best to leave it at that before then getting into the arguments and the debates. But in the terms of fiction, I definitely think that there's it goes down to like what are the creators allowing, because certain creators will say yes, you can eat this, you can eat that. One specific one that I'm remembering is that there's a guy who has poison powers. He's immune and resistant to all poisons. He eats bowls of poison, but then he has got constant diarrhea for like 12 hours of the day. And it's this thing, or even longer, or something like that, and it's like something ridiculous. And it's like, why do you keep eating poison? It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't harm me or kill me, but I am just literally eating something that shouldn't be eaten. And it's like, where is he getting all this from? One is to think that he might be getting it from his own powers, which is kind of then at that point the equivalent of self-cannibalization, kind of, where he generates enough power out to then eat it, but then technically that would make him sick. Or he's actually just somewhere finding actual natural poison, which still begs quite a few questions. But yes, like, either way, I think we've sort of covered roughly everything to do with this. So the last question is, would you have it?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's that, I mean, it's kind of an obvious answer. I mean, I've been wanting to play a poison generator for a bit, especially a Gemini anomaly poison, because I get the best of. Well, I mostly get the best of both worlds. So I didn't take because I've got a special ability.
You hate having to make a decision, so then you don't have to make a decision because all of
You
the
know,
decisions.
Joe, Joe, you don't have to call me out like that in front of all of these people. Like, that's, you know what? We're having a nice time, and now you're getting all serious on me.
I mean,
No, but
I'm
it's
sorry.
like, out of all of the things, because I did have my one token, I just, like, knew immediately what, Gemini token I was going to use it on, because I think both sides of this power in particular really good. Like, you get ridiculous amounts of damage, you get a lot of versatility in all of the abilities, and you get like poison manipulation and the ability for corrosive manipulation. Although I didn't take that because my special ability is something I think is a lot cooler, which I think we might have gone into it on the dev plays, but yeah, making people sick and potentially taking them out of their out of their built forms and get rid of their stockpiles for a bit is very cool. I like that a lot. But still, if it was just a straightforward Gemini anomaly, I think that would be the coolest power. I would be happy with that. If I was to stand on that, because of course I love my biokinesis, but biokinesis, poison generation, it's a hard decision which one I would have.
I think it's
Just
quite funny
biokinesis goes a
because
bit
over
more.
the last few months before you actually started playing as this character, you were playing as another character called Warhead, and you're still playing as that character, but like this is again before you actually started playing as Toxie. You actually said to me, I don't think I am ever going to be able to make a combat character and enjoy them, because I enjoy using support characters with multiple abilities and a ton of different ways that I can outreach my abilities. And
then
you
along
make
came Toxie.
But I think Toxie is an exception to the rule only because of one reason. Because Toxie gets all of the abilities and all of the buffs. Ergo, why they're so powerful, yet why they are so versatile. So I think either Prestiging or Gemini Anomaly is pretty much the best idea for you. And again, for those who don't really know, Prestiging is when you go through the entire levels, you've already chosen your stuff, and then you go again, either to get more buffs or get some of the perks you didn't get before, or even what we call Ironclad, which basically means you get them again, but you can alter something about them, either make them a little easier, a little bit more powerful, or even do something special to them that basically alters them forever. And so that's something that you can do, but as we've said before, anomalies are basically superhumans with 2 powers. A Gemini anomaly is when either when rolled for or when allowed by a DM, considering these guys are actually like so overpowered, we actually have to state in the rules. Ask your DM, if they say no, accept it. However, if you roll it in front of the table, no one is allowed to disallow this, because it is a phenomenon. So in the rules, it actually says, yeah, if the narrator says no, you have to deal with it. But if you roll it legitimately, they can't say no, but only if it's legitimate. Like, and I don't mean, roll and roll and roll and roll and roll until like you get the result in front of everyone that you want. I mean, the first time that you roll for this character, and it actually is both powers are the same roll, then you can have them. Because when you both level them up, you have the same power. It doesn't really do anything. But later game, when you finally get the what's known as balance, it is kind of the equivalent of having one power that has taken every branch. You get more power output, you get more abilities, you get all of the abilities and all of the buffs, and the best part is you get both the evolution and the mutation of the power. The downside to this, however, is since you have two separate powers, you have still both of the weaknesses, just like any other anomaly, so 2 times animate damage. The other downside is, if either of the two abilities contradict each other, the abilities cannot merge together. For instance, if you have one ability that states that takes away the original ability of using one specific capability, then it then means that whatever is buffed, increased, or manipulated differently in that ability, like evolution or mutation, the opposite power can then not merge with that other one. For instance, there's one ability that multiplies the range of the powers, but only with a specific type of area, effect, or objects. But it then states that they can no longer use the original variant of this ability because it changes them all to operate in this new world of powers. However, the original ability then can converge off into an evolution, where the evolution just does more things and has a better play on the original power. But because that the mutation contradicts it, you have still two powers that have all buffs and all abilities, but now they have two separate functions.
It kind of like, I mean, doing anomalies as well, you've got a lot of variables in your head, but when you've got, something like that, when you've got a conundrum like that, it does kind of suck. Which is like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I found like Poison Generation just easier to wrap my head around. Like, it's just like, it's like having a recipe book for powers. If that makes any sense. Yeah. It's like, okay, this poison, gets you drunk. This poison paralyzes you. This poison, will incapacitate your critical thinking skills. And it's like, these are all the things, and you have that, alongside the buffs, and you don't have to like pick and choose. You can have the entire book of recipes. Whereas like with the other powers though, it's like, yeah, they're a bit more finicky. I think, at least for me anyway. I'd much prefer to like, I'd much prefer Warhead to be prestige than an anomaly. I think that they'd be a lot better as prestige, and I think they are. Oh, by the way, I am starting. I've been through a lot of things with Warhead, as you know, privately. I'm like, I'm not sure if I like Warhead. I still don't know if I fully like him, but I think he's gotten better over time. I've gotten a bit more used to him and a bit more used to his powers.
I think it's also because, like, as we've said before, a lot of the things change as we go on through the development, because some of the powers seemed a bit underwhelming, and we realized it's because that like half of them were ignoring the whole thing of like the previous power, and so we obviously had to work around that, because again, if something evolves or mutates, it should at least take some of those aspects. For instance, you've put time, effort, and experience into building up how many abilities you have and how many buffs you have, how much damage you deal, how much range you have, what kind of special neat abilities and tricks you can pull off. And if that power just states nothing changes, then that's fine. But if it doesn't necessarily help you understand how the previous abilities work, you might think that they're impossible to use, and therefore it's like, okay, well, was there any point in me taking any of these abilities anyway if I'm just kind of locked off to them? So that's what we try to do, make it so that then it's not redundant to have abilities and it's not redundant to have perks, because there are certain powers where it's like, if you go for no buffs and you have all abilities, you are insanely good. And then there's other ones where if you just go for all buffs, you are OP as hell. But either way, there is no power that is ever stating it is best to go for all these, because your playstyle can very well change it. this ability seems to be best with all abilities, but you don't really like the idea of using these two different abilities because you don't really care about what they do and how they function. Cool, chuck them out. More damage for you. You don't really want any abilities and you want all pure damage. Fine. You don't need to, bog yourself down with any extra details. It's entirely up to anyone, and it's the same with anything. With D&D. Oh, you don't like, I don't know. Say for instance, you don't like Fire Genasi Paladins. Cool, don't play as one. It's that sort of thing, and it's the same thing with Poison. If any of you guys have never enjoyed any of these podcasts, but you enjoy us just rambling on about them, but you don't exactly enjoy the powers that we talk about, again, let us know in the comments below. Tell us, what kind of things would you like for us to talk about? What kind of powers or what kind of tropes in fiction? Heck, if you want to hear anything else about Animite Tales and any of the different things, check out the videos. Check out what we do. We do dev plays where we actually play test them on live streams, and we actually send these recordings onto the channel. So if you want to check those out, have a look, like and subscribe. And if you want to see what we're doing, keep on having a look at that Patreon. Back us up. In fact, almost all of you guys got to play as Gemini Anomalies because you guys have Gemini Anomaly tokens, because you guys are also patrons. So
I still have that token.
Yes, you do. It's all part of the planning and the experience, and I cannot thank every single one of you enough for all the support that you guys give. So if you want to learn more and you want to help this grow more, definitely help us all out. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this wherever you are listening to this. And I hope you too enjoyed this topic. I know that you got to talk about Toxie.
It's my favourite topic at the moment. I love Toxie so much. You know what? We were actually having a chat about this the other day. It's sort of like a mirror version of Aspen in a weird way, because they're both the non-binary characters that I've created. Except one of them, they got different power sets, but they both have like their own eccentricities. And I love them both. I want chibi versions of them in plush toys, please.
So, what about you? Did you enjoy this one, or was this not up your alley?
I like being able to mention the Greater Medusa, and old school D&D where you were a lot more ready to die
when you're just that closer to death.
Yeah, where there's no safety net. When they go, you know what? If you go beneath 100 health, beneath 0 health, you can survive. No, when you reach 0, you died. When you reach 0 and any other stat, you died. You died. Yeah, you just died. I like that. Sorry. And Toxie. I like Toxie. Toxie's good.
Toxie is good, absolutely. I'm looking forward to your next character as well as Graham's because of the stuff that happens. Again, I won't spoil as to what happened, even though it's nearly been 2 weeks. But
can I say though? Don't worry, he will return.
Who knows? The shadow.
Who knows? The shadow knows.
It's more up to the outside forces as to whether or not you'll actually be able to.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I will say this: the way that you've described, a couple of new characters that are coming on, I am already loving them. Okay, like there's gonna be a few changes in the next one. There's gonna be a new quest, and I'm looking forward to it, actually. And I'm not going to say any more about that. You'll just have to tune in.
Well, in that case, tune in next time and see what we come up with. Also, see what exactly we come up with in the terms of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Take care.
Bye.
See you in the future.
Ciao, ciao for now.